Okay, I will explain, like Simona said before, there are like different movements and different like places for the 15M split. So I will explain mostly the part concerning to housing and the platform affected by mortgages, which is so first I will do a little bit of introduction to Spanish public housing policies, so that you can have a little bit a context, and after that I will explain what the movement makes, what kind of demands they have, relation with the 15N movement, and also how it's inside organized more or less. So first of all, Charlie also went back to dictatorship time. In the Franco time, there was like a public housing politics, so more or less which was promoted was the rental of houses, and they were like rents very cheap, and a big part of the population lived in a rent regime. But at the end of the dictatorship time, the regime realized that if people are owners from something, they become more conservative. So they started to promote that people bought their own houses in order to be owners and to have something to conserve. And these policies were continued by when democracy arrived. So you had like taxation fees that were better if you bought a house than if you rent a house. So if people bought a house, when they make with the tax, they had to pay less than if they rent. And there's also like a totally lack of public housing. Like I know in Wien, for example, there are a lot of social public housing, as far as I know. And in Spain, there's like very few % of the houses are public housing where you can live, and it's also like more or less the conditions to get a public house are very difficult to achieve. So you had the opportunity, or you just had two ways to get a house: or rent in the free market, which was not really an alternative because it's very expensive, and also every 5 years you have to renovate the contract, and the rent can increase so much as the owner wants, and now it's like 3 years. Until 3 months ago it was 5 years the contract for a rent, and now it's like for 3 years, and after that the owner can increase the price of the rent so much as he wants. So there is no regulation for the rent of a house. This was one option, and the other one was buying a house, for what banks gave a lot of mortgages, and that's where more or less the movement I'm gonna talk about is focus. Also, I think I don't have to explain much about the immobilian bubble in Spain, which the growth of economy was based mostly in building houses and in anything less. So Charlie also meant before that in 2006 there were like big mobilizations for asking for an adequate housing. It was started with an anonymous email, like in the press. There were some protests in France, and in Spain also was like the time where it was prohibited to drink alcohol on the street, which is something that young people do a lot, like in weekends and so on. And in France there were like politics protests. So someone in the press wrote, the young people from France protest for legitimate things, and young people from Spain just protest for not being able to drink alcohol. So someone wrote an anonymous email saying, they say that we just care for drinking alcohol in the street, but we care also for housing, so let's go the 14th of May, every one of us, to the square from our cities in order to ask for the right to an adequate housing. And so it started like what we call before Vivienda, and which was like more or less 1 year long. The protest, it was a lot of demonstration. There were also like some proposals made, but I think the government achieved to approve to make some little changes in the law and give like some help to rent a house for young people, and the movement did not know how to say, okay, this is a victory that we achieved, but we have to go farther. So it like came more or less down, and the movement like disappeared. But some people that were related to this first movement, 2006, that were more focused in renting, in like the renting politics, said, okay, when the bubbles go down, the people that have contract a mortgage will have a lot of problems in order to pay the mortgage. So we have to start to work more or less with people that have contract a mortgage in order to buy a house. So in 2009, the platform again affected by mortgages started in Barcelona, and it was focused in like 3 demands. The idea was, and I think it's one of the things that that has made the platform grow, was not to have like a very big demand, like we want democracy or we want the right for housing, but to say, okay, we want 3 things that are common sense, that are very easy for everyone to understand, but that actually, if we achieve them, banks would not accept it, and the government will also not accept it, but it's common sense and it's like something that has to be approved if we really live in a democracy. So one was, and this is also a peculiarity, something that just happened in Spain, like in most of the countries in Europe, if you have a mortgage and you give back the keys, you give back the house to the bank, you have no debt more, so you don't have to pay after that to the bank. But in Spain, it's not like this. Like if you cannot pay, the bank, I just look at the, you go to a trial, to court, there's an auction, your house comes back to the bank, but you still have to pay all what you debt to the bank. So maybe you don't have, you have been evicted and you have to pay 120,000 euros to the bank. So, and one of the demands was we want so that, which is called dación en pago, hand back the keys and the property back to the bank, discharging the debt, so that you have no debt more. Yes, I give you the key, you become the house, but I have no debt anymore with you, bank, which is something. So the platform affected by mortgages is mostly people that have a problem of housing because they've been evicted and they have lost their house, but also of debt. If I have this debt, I cannot like buy a washing machine, I cannot rent a house because I'm in a list of people that earn money. Mm-hmm. I will get part of my salary taken by the bank if I have a contract. So it's really a big problem, and we also say...
I've got a question. Is it that, okay, first you're evicted, then there's the auction of the house?
No, it's before. When you stop paying,
yeah, you don't pay. So
the bank says you have to pay so much.
Yeah.
And you don't pay because normally you don't pay because you have lost your job, and you can. So you go to court and you have nothing to do because you're not paying the bank, so you have no legal argument to have a trial. You lost, and then the house during the process goes to an auction. Yeah. If there is no private person that wants to buy the house, which usually doesn't happen because there are too much auction, the bank get the house for a % of the initial price. And then you get evicted because the house doesn't belong anymore to you.
Yeah, and the question, and you still have to pay something.
Yes, you have to pay all what you haven't paid for the mortgage.
Yeah, but not the difference between the auction and the mortgage, but all the mortgage. So
all the mortgage plus interest plus the cost of the trial.
plus cost of the trial, which is more and okay.
Renting a house is more expensive than the other, I thought.
Yeah, well, renting was not seen as an option for people because they thought, okay, I can pay a mortgage like 600 euros a month, I will pay a rent for 700 euros, and after the house will not belong to me, so what I will do is I will take a mortgage, and after 30 years the house will belong to me. But they were not expecting to lose their jobs and not to be able to not pay the mortgage.
It's all about money.
Yes, yes. It's all about
If you have money, you are human. In otherwise, you are not.
más o menos.
If you don't pay the money to the bank gets the house from you.
And
You lost your house,
Yes, and you have to
and
debt.
you have to pay
Ya bu-
the remaining money.
Yes.
Bu normal ama Özer şey
Also,
hani
And if they sell
ev
your house for
kiralamak
a
çok
low
pahalı diyor.
price,
Yani
you still have
seni
to pay
bak,
the
ev kiralamak
balance,
pahalı
right?
diyor, seni
Yeah, if
mortgage'e
they sell the
yönlendiriyor
house,
diyor.
it's not
Mortgage'da da diyor ödeyemezsen evini alıyor diyor.
Evini
Anladın mı?
alıyor, ödemeni de
Let's say you owe
İşte
them
ev kiralamayı
50,000
bunların dediği yani ev
and
kiralayabilmeli
then
insan
they
diyor.
get
Yani,
your
anladın mı?
house,
Hani
and then they sell
ev
it to
kiralamayı
her.
sen
I
yasalarla
buys it
pahalı
for
hale
20,000
getirirsen diyor,
euros.
yükseltirsen diyor.
Sadece kirasından bahsetmiyor. Kirasından
Still
bahsediyor.
50. Even if I sold it for 20.
Mortgage de ödeyemeyince
Tamam
hem
canım
alıyor
işte.
hem ödemeni alıyormuş.
Tamam güzel kardeşim. Mortgage'e yönlendiriyor diyor.
It's theirs, right?
Sen de öyle değil yani.
This is like the big demand of the platform to say, okay, I want to give back the keys. What? That if I go back, I
surrender the
give back the keys to the bank. I
Yes.
have no doubt more, which is something of common sense, but it's not happening. So you have a lot of people have lost their house
Yes.
because after the auction, the house does not belong anymore to you, so you get evicted. And also you have a debt. This one of the big demands. Dación en pago is called. The other demand was social rental, which says in Spain is the country where more evictions are made, and with more empty houses in Europe. It's more, there are more than 3 million empty houses. More than 1 million belongs to the banks. So one of the demands was all the houses that belong to banks have
Yes.
to be given to the government in a public rent regime. See, it has to. These banks have to give the right to housing to a lot of people with social rent. And social rent means, in terms of United Nations, that you don't pay more than 30% of your salary or of your income for the house. And the third demand was stop evictions. It means if people have just one house and they stop paying because they could not pay anymore, not because they didn't want to, but because they could not, evictions have to be stopped, because it's a human right to have a house, and if you cannot pay because you lost your job, it's not that you have like bad intention, but that you have to did not have the choice. So these were the three big demands, and also what the platform made is like apply a lot of strategies, like not to do, I think how the classical left movements made, to say we won't talk to the government because the government is bad or something like this, but to say, okay, we will agotar, expire.
Yeah.
Expire all the ways that we have to in order to change the law. That means we will go to speak with the city councils in order that they declare the cities free of evictions. We will start this popular legislative initiative, like collect signatures, which, well, never a popular legislative initiative change a law in Spain, but we will try to do that. We will also apply non-violence and civil disobedience tacticals in order to stop evictions. We will go and occupy banks in order to force them to negotiate. We will talk to all kind of, to the judge, to everyone. We will apply all kind of strategies in order to make the situation change. And meanwhile, we collect signatures in order to change the law and so on. What we will do is to work a lot with the hypothesis victory. Like every time that we stop an eviction or that we force a bank to negotiate, that we give them the keys and they stop the debt, we will reclaim it as a victory from the movement. Just for one family, we don't care, but we will like work on the idea that things can be changed by the people themselves, and not that it's like if we don't achieve, or maybe we will not achieve tomorrow our big demands, but every time that we apply this little demand and we achieve it for our family, we will say it was a victory from the movement.
You have lawyers to work with us.
Well, this comes in the part of internal organization, which I think is one of the more interesting things. This one, well, this idea of victory, of working with the idea of victory in order like to give the power to the people, thinking that that things can be changed by ourselves and not by like the big structures or thing, or like it was very important. Another thing was like to make the structure of the platform very easy to be replicada.
Duplicate.
Yes, duplicate in a lot of places. Like the idea was, okay, if we have to force our bank office to negotiate, the platform has to be there where a person affected by the mortgages. So we will make it so that it can be duplicated in every local place, like in every town, in every little municipality, so that you can make all these negotiations and all these actions with your neighbors. And it's not from Barcelona, we cannot make actions in Granada or in the south of the country. And and with like 3 principles that were very easy, and there's where I can. One was like not to be related with political parties. It does not mean that the members of the platform cannot be from any party or from any political wing, whatever they wanted, because like mostly of the population in Spain, like 80% of the population in Spain has a mortgage, so has both a house, so it's a very big percent of the population. So you don't have to be related to a political party. You don't have to, people do not have to pay to be to join the platform. And the other is what we call the collective asesoramiento.
Advisors?
Yeah, well, collective advisors, it means like people come to the platform saying, my case is very important, it's very particular, I want a lawyer. So we never give a lawyer, we will never do individual advisor. What we do is like, in an assembly, well, it's also because the law is very unjust. So, and it's very like, you have 3 things you can do, and mostly of the things you will achieve is with civil disobedience. So we, in assembly, we explain which phases you can, which tempos you will have if you don't pay your mortgage, or if you think you will not pay your mortgage in the next month. What you can do, we generated a lot of like documents for utility for everyone, and we upload them in the webpage, so people can download them anywhere they are. And then we explain how is all the process, and then we explain people what they have to do in every moment. And which is very important from this collective moment is that people come to the platform thinking that they are guilty for the situation. Like sometimes the bank calls you when you stop paying. The bank calls you from 7 o'clock in the morning until 12 o'clock in the night, saying you have to pay, the police will come, you will lose your children. Like, they're very aggressive, so people come with a feeling that they are guilty for the situation. So in the moment when we make this collective advisory, people get like legal tools but they also get like psychological support, and it's like a moment of collective empowerment, because I discovered that what I was feeling guilty for is the same situation as she is, or she is, so it's not my fault. It's like a structural problem. So it's one of the keys or of the things that is more important for the platform movement, is this kind of collective space where we exchange legal tools, also experiences, also like when people explain their situations, it's also there are other people affected that say, oh, I tried that with my bank, and with this bank it didn't work, but tried this experience. So people advise each other, and it's like a moment where you generate like collective the feeling of belonging to something collective, when you discover that it's not your fault, and also when you discover that what you thought it was impossible, that you give the keys and the debt is stopped because the bank told you it's no way, you discover that there are other people that were in your situation or worse that have achieved it with civil disobedience and with the collective movement. So it's a very important moment, and also a very important issue for the movement, this kind of collective advisory.
Sorry, I have, as I'm translating and writing at the same time, I've forgotten the second point. The first is no membership in a political party. The second would be
that people do not have to pay in order to join the platform, because there are a lot of people, there are a lot of people that are becoming the minimal help from so it's like 426 euros, and for a family with 5 members, and that it's like there are people that really don't have money, and there are other people that have money but they cannot pay so higher mortgage. This is like these 3 principles, and this idea of collective advisory is one of the is the other things that are like very important in the platform. I just want I will show you some photos in order that you see what kind of movement and what kind of people are joining the platform. Okay, nowadays there are 170 platforms. Like when it started in 2009, it becomes bigger in Catalonia at the beginning, and now there are like 170 platforms.
So it's region-based or area-based?
Yes, it's more. Well, the idea is that you can in every place where there is affected by more, because after I will explain what kind of actions we do, but just in order that you make you an idea of what kind of people join the movement. This is an action where we were occupying the office of BBVA, which is one of the health banks in Spain, but this is Nuria and Matias. And this is the office from BBVA. What we make is okay, we don't have the law that obliges the banks in order to negotiate or to give us what is just and what is common sense. So with this non-violent civil disobedience, we force banks to negotiate with us. And we make it like making acampadas. Camps in the doors of the offices, or occupying the offices themselves, because what we discovered is banks are very powerful, but they care a lot about their public image. So we work a lot with media, also with post-media frames like Twitter and so on, and we make collective actions, which this one, we were 500 people occupying the office, and also individual actions where you go there with some.
How long do you stay occupied there?
How long do you occupy?
This one was 8 hours, and after 8 hours they agreed to make a meeting and to negotiate what we were asking to.
This is not for an individual credit.
No, I will explain later.
Okay.
It's just I just want you to take a look of like which kind. I mean, it's like I think one thing that is was not one of the objectives of the platform, but what it achieved is like there are a lot of migrant people, and it's like the issue of being migrant is not as an issue there. It's you are one person affected more. So I think it's very interesting, and one of the success of the platform is that there's no racism inside. Like there are a lot of people like Arabian people from Latin America, and people from Spain, and instead of like going to this logic that started to do the government to like the war between poor people, no, like all the immigrants take all the help from the state. It's like a place where really solidarity emerge, and there is no racism, which for me is really a success in the platform. So there are a lot of people. There are like doctors. There are people that have studied at university. There are people that were working in construction, and so there are really a lot of different people. And well, the green is our color, as you can see. And it's like really, well, when we go inside, it's always like a lot of noise. We always have taps with us, and there are like very different kind of people there. So maybe.
Do you usually go to branches or their headquarters or something like that? Do you go to the headquarters of the bank, like the main headquarters, or in each city or something like that?
It depends. It's like if it's an individual action, we ask for the director, and if it's a collective action, we try to speak with the
head. Yes. Top.
Does government say anything for this?
Okay, this is a demonstration we made, pero I think the thing with internet, which is great internet normally, here you can see it.
How come, I mean, yeah, you're allowed 8 hours to demonstrate, to occupy the bank. It's interesting to know, why do they let so much time? Because of the image, do you think it works for you, in your favor?
I think the platform is nowadays like a social legitimation, and it's also a problem that we're like also like policemen are affected by. So it means that they really take care not to evict a place if they don't think they will have a good justification in order to make it that. Because it's like, well, it's really, the platform has worked a lot with the social how to win the social legitimation, which makes, at the beginning it was not so easy. Like the first eviction that was stopped was more aggressive, and after that, like it became with this idea that okay, we have stopped one eviction, and it's a victory for everyone that Luis can stay at his house. So they began to work and to really like work with this idea that housing is a human right, and that anyone has the right to housing, and also working in with media, with like a discourse with a lot of potential and with a lot of common sense, and also making that the affected people explain their situations so that you can identify with them, because there are really a lot of people that are in the same situation. So, well, for me it's also something new, because I've been doing activism for a long time. So it's very strange when police evict you and says, and to the person you were making the action for, says, we hope you will solve your case because we are in the same situation. So it's really...
They sympathize, actually.
Yeah,
even the police.
Well, not always, and there is also repression. Well, I will explain later the repression, but I mean, it's, for example, with this, I wanted to explain it later, but with this popular legislative initiative, when it was accepted on the parliament and they had to discuss about it, we started a campaign in order to, like, we invited all the deputies to come, all the parliamentarians to come to our assemblies in order to know reality, to say, okay, you have to vote for a law that will affect a lot of people, so if you don't know the reality of these people that are affected, you cannot decide for this law or not. So come to our assembly and you will see how reality works. So they didn't come. So we said, okay, we're gonna go to where you work or to your houses and make our assemblies in front of the door so that you know reality. And there was like a big campaign of criminalization of the movement, saying that it was like terrorism and it was all Nazism or like things, because we wanted to force them to change their vote. So it was very interesting there to see, for example, where like the mass media were like not all, but they were in this criminalization campaign. But all the, ¿cómo se dice encuestas? Surveys were saying that people agreed with what the platform was making and the demand. So it was one moment where mass media that normally generate opinion and the population were like separated. I think, well, for all the work that has been done in the last 3 years, but also because there are a lot of people that are affected by this kind of situation. And that means that also that all the people that vote the party that is now in government, well, not all, but their basis, like the normal people that go to work, they are also affected by mortgages. Actually, there are people that vote PP, the Popular Party, that are in the platform because you have no other way in order to solve your problem. So it means you have to deal with, if you're the government, you have to deal with some kind of equilibrium, no? Like with the banks, but also you cannot say all, well, actually one of the spokesperson of the government said the people that vote the Popular Party stop eating before stop paying the mortgage, which make the people got much more angry because there are really people that stop eating before stop paying the mortgage, but it's not because they vote the Popular Party or not. So I think there are a lot of elements that come there, but one is this, well, like having demands that are from common sense, being non-violent, having used all the strategies, all the vias that you have in order to change the law, like collecting signatures, talking to the court, talking to city councils, everything, being non-violent, and also like making people, well, like transmitting people the idea that they can change the situation when the government does not do anything in order to change a situation that is not fair. So it's also the, well, one of the slogans from the platform is "Si se puede," it's like the "Yes we can" from Obama, which is also like, that's my particular opinion, but like left movements a lot have this kind of tendency to say, to make the victims, no, to say like, oh, they repress us, we can, and it's like changing this idea and saying, okay, yes we can, yes people, we can do it. So what I was saying before, when we achieve that one family gives back the keys or we stop an eviction, is a victory from all of us. And I think really it generates a feeling of belonging to something like big that makes you strong, which is one of the emotional elements that makes that the platform is like, well, that people really have this kind of belonging and this idea that we can change things. Well, this actually that we were talking about before, when we but I will explain you this action related to the video. Do you have any questions until now? Do you understand anything I'm saying?
Same things happening in Turkey.
Well, you have to organize and win.
İşte we will do what are you doing in your country, and then we are here to learn what are you doing in your countries about these problems.
What are we
Doing.
What are you doing in your countries about these problems? Because same problems in all over the world. It's all about money. If you have
But
money,
she's explaining what we are doing.
Huh?
We are mobilizing
Yes.
thousands of people in thousands of countries, cities.
but government in Turkey isn't allowed these like these organizations.
Yeah.
But this I think there's one thing that is very well. I'm joining the platform like since 1 year ago. So I was not in the beginning. I was like following it, but not like inside. And I think there's one thing that is like very important from the. It's really a grassroots movement. It's like it's the same people that they're not like people that decide and people that make things. It's really that it's a collective movement where everyone has voice. And actually, I think there are elements of like how hackers work more. Like if you've got a good idea and you transmit it to the rest of the movement and you work in order this idea to go, people will agree and follow it. It's not like you, like if ideas are good and you make the work, also this work philosophy makes that, well, good ideas at least become implementar, que no sé cómo se dice. Okay, I will explain this action and the campaign, and after I will explain like the different sectors where the platform works. It's okay? Or
Okay.
vale. Okay, imagine like 4 years of movement with these 3 demands, and with the 3 demands, and also like every day making actions to banks in order to force them to negotiate to stop eviction, or in order to be able to give back the keys and solve the debt. Also talking with judges and making a lot of kind of proposals to city councils, to autonomies and so on. We collect 1,050,000 signatures when we needed just 500,000 signatures. The Popular Party, the party in the government said, okay, maybe we won't accept to debate about the proposal, not to accept the proposal, but to debate about it. So there were like protests in the streets in every sede office from this party. In every city there was like a concentration in order to force them to accept to debate about the proposal. So they said they wouldn't debate about it, and after like there were a lot of people in the street and they accept to debate about it. We invited the parliamentarians to come to assemblies. They say they won't because they know how to make a law, and we don't have to explain them how they have to act. And we say, okay, we're gonna go to your works and to your houses, and they start this criminalization process where they say we were terrorists, we were trying to force them and so on. And meanwhile, the president of the government, Mariano Rajoy, when he made like press conference, he didn't go and speak to the journalists about the platform or about anything else, but they call the journalists go to a place, and then they switch on the TV, and in the TV was the president of the government, so that he didn't have to respond to answer to the journalist questions. It was like really like matic. So the journalists were angry, we were also angry. So, and at the end of the campaign, when we were going to the houses from the parliamentarians and so on, the president of the government went to an event in Barcelona. So we wanted to we went to receive him to Barcelona with this kind of television in order to say, okay, if you talk like this to the people, we will talk like this to you in order to know if you can listen to us or not. So
this was in case there was a national or a local or regional.
The president of the government of Spain.
Of Spain, and there was a proposal on the change of law on
people affected by mortgages.
People affected by mortgages, and it was in favor or against people affected by mortgages.
Well, we had a proposal.
Okay.
Okay. I didn't explain it. So, laws are changed in the parliament, or you as citizens, you can like collect signatures with a law proposal in order that is debated in the parliament. Sorry, I didn't explain it. So if you collect 500,000 signatures, the parliament decides if they will debate the proposal or not. And after, if they decide that they will, they debate and they accept or not the proposal. Okay, there are like two times. When the proposals come to the parliament and the parliamentarian says, okay, you have 500,000 signatures, but we won't discuss about it, we don't care. Or, okay, we will discuss about it, and if yes, then they say, okay, we take it or we don't take it.
Yes.
Okay, so we collected 1.5 million signatures, and they say, we are thinking that we won't even discuss about your proposal. So there were protests in the street, and they accepted to discuss about the proposal. And then they had like 2 months in order to
vote about the proposal.
Yes, to discuss about it. So during these 2 months, we make this campaign of saying to the parliamentarians, okay, came to our assemblies, to our meetings, you will know how people are suffering the problem of mortgages, and then you will know that you have to accept our proposal, which means was these 3 months stopped evictions, social rent, and giving dación en pago, giving the keys back and the debt is sold. And we went to houses and to neighbors, and the government didn't like it. So I think also because like there is a big distance between the political class and people, so they are not used to people telling them reality, no? And meanwhile, for other issues, the president of the government was making press conference with a television, without being able, the journalists, to make any questions. Or
like
so.
a Skype press conference.
Yes, like Matrix.
Skype press conference.
What happened at the end in the parliament?
Espera, wait. I'm trying to be excited.
Okay, so I've just okay.
And this is just an action during this campaign because the president of the government came to Barcelona. So we were like making irony of this idea of press conference. So we make a lot of cartoon televisions in order to speak to him in the same way he speaks to people. So it's just, this is also the spokesperson of the platform, which became, I will explain it later, but which became like very well known before this campaign, and was also like focus of the criminalization process.
Desahucios is eviction, right?
Sí. So this was the end, like. So I will show you a video that is 2 minutes, which is also, we make like 3 videos for this campaign. One was first like inviting the parliamentarians to come to the meeting. After the criminalization process began, we were talking to the people that vote the popular parties, and we make like a message for the people that vote the popular party, which was like a new form of answering to repression, in order to say they repress us, to say, okay, we will talk to the people that give you the power. So And the last one was this one where we told, there was a message